and welcome. This is my intro video to a channel that I have wanted to start for a really long time. So it's pretty exciting. Welcome and thank you. Thank you for having me. Bruce Lee, I think, said, time is the stuff that life is made of. So I value mine and I value yours. And I can't thank you enough for taking your time to listen to me and watch this video. Where is your power? I would submit to you that it is in knowing the self. Was it not said, the kingdom of heaven is within? In his work, Joseph Campbell, the American writer, he shares with us the hero's journey, the journey to self. Now, this is a journey that is best served when we make it, or it becomes a matter of conscious awareness, with the power of decision through our choices. There are no seemingly small choices. I want to read a quote by Gordon Hinckley. It is not so much the major events as the small, day-to-day decisions that make the course of our living. Our lives are, in reality, the sum total of our seemingly unimportant decisions and of our capacity to live by those decisions. And so my dog has decided now, while I'm in my studio, to chew on his bone. That's going to be in the background. Personality, behavior. The development of personality, organized patterns of behavior. Personality is shaped over time. And there are a variety of factors that influence personality: genetics, environment, parenting or caregivers in childhood, how we were socialized as part of our culture, or variables of the society in which we evolve. For my purposes here, I'll emphasize organized patterns of behavior. What we think, how we feel, and how we behave are closely connected, and all of those factors, thinking, feeling, and behavior, have a decisive influence on our well-being. How do our personalities affect the experiences of our relationship between ourselves and others? That's the question I'm asking. And as adults, our well-being is first then incumbent upon ourselves, right? Personal responsibility as adults. Yet so very few of us came from out of environments in our childhoods where our needs were appropriately met by our caregivers. We are generations now deep into neglect, abuse, or just dysfunction within our familial or foundational relationships. Where's the point of reference for our own particular care of our own emotional and psychological well-being? You understand what I'm asking? I say this: abuse lived is abuse normalized, or dysfunction, right? What a point of reference do we have if this is what we have come out of? It's also said we are product of our environments, correct? Jiddu Krishnamurti says, it is no measure of good health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. A very basic education in psychology would include the work of behavioral psychologists such as Piaget, Erikson, Freud. I have been drawn more personally to the work of Swiss psychoanalyst Carl Jung. In particular, this understanding of self in regards to the aspect of the shadow, or one's dark side. Our third dimensional experience is one of duality: light, dark, good, bad, etc. And as a side note, possibly the most enthralling discussion and information I've encountered on duality, or the third dimension, would be from Matthias de Stefano. Matthias Di Stefano. I'm probably not saying that correctly, pronouncing it correctly. Through his presentation Initiation on Gaia, it's a streaming platform, kind of like a spiritual Netflix. The show is Initiation. Duality, how the friction through positive and negative polarity operates. He explains the functional aspect, the necessity of positive and negative polarity, or the cause and effect to the duality aspect of this third dimensional experience. How this earth school for learning is structured or has been constructed, the benefit that it serves us is riveting. I love that show. So we have the good or the light aspect of self and the bad or the dark aspect of self. All of or any of this is relevant to me as part of understanding the self. Another thing I picked up from listening to Matthias, understanding precedes transcendence. Transcendence equals moving beyond, right? What's the point of life experiences? I don't believe it's to get it right or for perfection. What if it is to learn, understand, and move beyond, to move beyond that which you formerly did not understand? So it was in this journey to self, this awareness of my own dysfunction, something I refer to as coping mechanisms gone awry, and their effects on my relationship with myself as well as others, that enlightened me and empowered me when it came to what changed, what needed to change, and the consequences, the effects those changes brought. What I'm here to share with you is that I utilized my power to change me. It changed my life. My thoughts changed. My feelings changed. And behaviors changed. Thus, my life changed. I wish to emphasize this is a process. And that's very good news because a process, by nature of being a process, can be observed and taught, and thus can be replicated or reproduced. So I'm living what Joseph Campbell calls or explains as the hero's journey. The hero's journey is simply going within, facing one's fears to overcome the fear of facing that dark or shadow aspect of self. Jordan B. Peterson has some really fascinating things that he speaks on regarding virtue. And, it's a bunny. A bunny doesn't have virtue. It's just a bunny, harmless. It takes virtue that you can be a monster and choose not to act out and destroy. His words are much, much more succinct and eloquent. But check into Jordan B. Peterson. So the hero's journey is simply going within, facing one's fears to overcome the fear of facing that dark or shadow aspect of self, to integrate it, to respect the duality, understand its purpose, and welcome yourself to the self, the wholeness that you already are. It's often said, there's nothing to add. You just get rid of, right? There's nothing to add. You're perfect. You're whole. There's nothing that you need to add. Just remove, get rid of. That's a philosophical, Eastern philosophical premise. It's in caring for yourself that we can best care for others. In fact, we cannot authentically care for others without first caring for ourselves. And I'd offer you the example of the oxygen mask dropping down when on a airplane. The instruction is to supply yourself, to take care of yourself first, right? This statement was attributed to Einstein. If I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend the first 55 minutes determining the proper question to ask. For once I knew the proper question to ask, I could solve the problem in less than 5 minutes. Another attributed to him. We can't solve problems by using the same type of thinking used when we created them. And I often have those statements by him in mind, in the back of my mind. Some of us sometimes can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. What I wish to inform you is there can be a bend in that tunnel, and your line of sight is prohibited in this case. It's also necessary that you be aware of this important truth. Change happens slowly, much as the movement of the small hand on the clock, not the big hand. Incrementally, this is how change occurs. And we'll talk more about that next time. Your power through change. Your power, I believe, is in knowing yourself. I invite you at least to think about this. This is a journey made only with focus and attention from you that you deserve, and can only be given by you and received by you consciously. No one else, nowhere else. You inside yourself. I don't think I had ever heard of a personality disorder. I didn't know what one was. I had, out of high school, taken a couple intro to psych classes at the college level, and when I finally did come to learn how behavior, significantly maladaptive behaviors, were symptoms collectively to various personality disorders, the Pavlovs Dog Experiment gave me great understanding to my own personal experience as to how a stimulus, a naturally appropriate response, could become conditioned or rerouted unnaturally. And here's what I mean. If you're not familiar with this experiment, Pavlov's dogs, then just Google it. It's imperative that you understand what I'm speaking about. You need to get the gist of it. So a stimulus, the steak, was placed in front of a dog. Now this steak would naturally cause an appropriate, what I would call an appropriate response, right? The dog would salivate. Mine's drinking water now. Through conditioning, that stimulus, okay, the steak, was changed or altered to a bell. And the dog salivating then became a response to an unnatural or inappropriate stimulus, the sound of the bell. When I first made the connection as to how the symptoms, such as to use crying for attention, and this is a symptom of behavior within histrionic personality disorder, could be part of my own behavior, it was due to the understanding of how coping mechanisms can go awry. And the Pavlovs Dog Experiment explained just how such a natural response can become wired up to an inappropriate stimulus. And if you're following me, I cried because I was upset, right? Or affected by something that should naturally cause me to cry. I had not realized the reinforcement of attention conditioned my behavior to be more emotional, susceptible to using that emotionality and garnering attention. When our needs as children are not met, properly or appropriately attended to, when we learn via cause and effect life experiences that our environments cannot be depended upon, or that our caregivers cannot be present and capable, that instead they are not reliable, our behaviors become maladaptive, right? We have to adjust. Naturally, in our fear and misunderstanding, coping mechanisms also go awry with our attempts to get those needs met as children. We are unknowing of what then is maladaptive behavior. These behaviors have long since been established, and their origins, the cause and effect outcome that reinforced them, is nowhere within our awareness, let alone understanding. So it was not until my 40s did I have the opportunity to come to understand what surviving my childhood had created in me. I came out of 7 years of therapy with an incredibly adept and skilled doctor of psychology teaching me and myself learning from the tools and skill set needed to heal myself and evolve as a soul or an individual. I might go back and redid that. I was trying to stop my dog from doing something, so I threw my glasses at it. All right. This is a first time thing for me. And for a long time, I have put this off because I needed this to be this way. I have what's called a neurodivergent brain, and that might look like labels such as autism, low spectrum autism, ADD. It really doesn't matter, the label. It's an understanding. Okay, so let me back up a little bit. So it wasn't until my 40s did I have the opportunity to come to understand what surviving my childhood had created in me. I came out of 7 years of therapy with an incredibly adept and skilled doctor of psychology teaching me and myself learning from the tools and skill set needed to heal myself and evolve as a soul, an individual. I no longer recall where I discovered the following. I believe it may have been from a website known as the Ascension Glossary. And here's the quote. Our spiritual growth is directly related to our emotional balance. This is why Ascension is 99% emotional healing. The soul is the true emotional body. To recover her, we must heal her. The state of one's emotions determine what kind of experience we are having. Emotions and their lower drives are extremely powerful forces in our lives. Unresolved emotional conflicts and their fears will keep us from doing the things we love and sabotage our spiritual growth. Now, again, I want to stress that that was not my work. I took that from, I do believe, the Ascension Glossaries, the website. I'll try and link that down below. Here's what I'm here to tell you. And I'm hoping that most of you know this, at least deep within you somewhere. You are a sacred treasure. We must be alive and awakened to that, to reap the riches, the truth this awareness brings. Through my own journey of awakening, I developed self-love, acceptance, understanding, compassion. Between my own personal experiences and an innate ability to recognize patterns, in this case, organized behaviors, I developed an understanding which, in applying to the process of self-discovery, proved quite helpful to me. In sharing this and myself with others, I received the feedback which caused me to want to create this channel. I have some formal education, a great deal of self-study, and an even greater amount of trial and error when I describe myself as a doula for shadowwork. A doula is a trained companion who's not a healthcare professional and who supports another person through a significant health-related experience, such as childbirth or non-reproductive experiences such as dying. Dying to self to discover one's true self is part of the day-to-day management and this process or journey of knowing thyself. Remember, at the beginning of this video, I asked, where is your power? I said that I believe our power is found in knowing the self. It's also been stated, the kingdom of heaven is within. My purpose is to assist my viewers, men and women equal to me, by sharing my understanding with you as you choose to take responsibility in your own process and journey to healing and wholeness. So welcome. And I hope you'll join me next time when we'll talk about your power through change. Remember, change happens slowly, such as the movement of the small hand to the clock, not the big hand. Incrementally, this is how change occurs. Sentolapace. Feel the peace.